Happy 4th of July, everybody. Boyd here with you. Well, I want to apologize off the bat here for the background noise of the air conditioning in the shop. It's really hot out here, and I've got to keep it running while I'm working out here. It'll start roasting out here immediately. It's July in Texas, so you can expect it to get pretty warm. But things are coming along really good on our C-57 space cruiser build, you guys. I wanted to give you guys a first update on what I've been working on. I've been working on the saucer top and bottom. I posted a couple pictures on my Facebook page you guys can check out. I did a mock-up of this to show you how it looks all put together, basically just using some blue painter's tape. But I discovered a few things about this kit and working with it that I'm going to pass on to you guys that hopefully will help you solve a little bit of that problem we have with this kit, which are well-known issues of the edge of the saucer winding up, you know, pretty crooked and kind of a wave action going on there, and then having a bunch of high and low spots on the top. Now, what I found when I mocked all this up is that the bottom part of the saucer actually fit really, really well, and it's not going to need that much work at all, just using the basic direct, method that they recommend in the assembly instructions, using the little tabs that are included there. Everything fit together pretty nice. I think one of the reasons for that, and I'll get into a little bit more of that in a second, but the bottom saucer has got a lot more reinforcement in it with the different shapes where the landing gear have to go and everything. And so it kind of makes, the whole thing a lot stronger, and it just works better. Where in the top here, you just have these huge panels that don't really have a lot of support at all. You have the same kind of interlocking tab method, but you're going to get issues because there's just not a lot of support there. So I mocked both of these up on my kitchen table separately, and found that right away the issue that we had with the top saucer was really a manufacturing issue more than it is the fault of the kit itself, or that it's made out of plastic. What I found is that these little tabs, I'm going to flip this thing over for you. Well, let me spin it around here first to show you that we've got a nice straight edge going on here now, and this is just mocked up. It's going to get even straighter once we glue it together, because we've got, the basic foundation of this thing is pretty straight, and I'll show you here why when we flip the top part of the saucer over. But what I did here, you guys, is as I mentioned, you have these little tabs right here. These are the ones that are still in place on the bottom saucer. I went ahead and grinded all these off on the top part of the saucer, because what I found is when we interlocked this together, the issue that we had was when all these panels were butted up right tight against each other, the whole thing wanted to be sort of scrunched up in the center. And whenever you'd put weight on one side of it to try to flatten it out, the other side would want to severely pop up. So we knew that we had an issue with this circle not being exactly a true circle. It was actually smaller than a true circle that way. So I just decided, first of all, I was going to reinforce these tab areas here with something better, and I'll go back to that with the wood and talk about what I did. But in a nutshell, what I found out, you guys, is once I removed those tabs and I laid this whole thing out on the table again and just kind of let it naturally fit together without any pressure on it, the way it fit best was having a little gap in one of these panels right here. Okay, which is really strange, but that's how it is. And you can notice this one panel right here, it has a wider gap than all the other ones. Well, once I did that, the whole thing laid down and settled down pretty nicely. And so it was basically too close together. They didn't design it right or whatever, and so it was causing this pressure. And unless you get rid of that, you're going to constantly fight that all the way through this entire build, because if you try to close up one area over here, the other area is going to have a lot more pressure on it, and it's going to try to spring up or whatever. So I had to get rid of that. Otherwise, I'd just be wasting my time trying to do body work and make it straight and everything. That pressure would eventually come back too. The longer this model sits after it's built, that pressure's still there. It'll slowly start, trying to get rid of that pressure, and it's going to compensate by trying to fold somewhere, and we don't want that to happen. So that basically took care of the pressure problem. Now, what we also have with this is that, again, not so much on the bottom. The bottom fits pretty good, but on the top here, I'm going to take my little pointer here and show it to you guys. I'll just use a paintbrush here. These panels are not flush, right? So what we have is like this one here fits pretty good, but if we start going around here, we can see that we start snagging here and there. You see where this is catching right here? And a couple other spots, like right in here. See how that won't slide over? It starts sliding over when you get up close to the top or close to the bottom. But we've got a high spot right there. Now, with Bodywork, which I've done for years, your enemy is a high spot, right? A low spot you can deal with because you can use filler and make that go away and block sand it down. But a high spot, if you wind up putting filler on here and you start sanding this down to where everything else is going to be smooth, that high spot's going to keep coming back. It's going to keep breaking right through your filler. So what we need to do, which I've already done on this little panel right here, I'll explain this. We need to remove the high spot. Well, to do that, I just use my little die grinder here, which works awesome on plastic because it doesn't spin at such a high RPM that it actually heats up the plastic and melts it. It just shaves that off really nice. I just went down like this and just kept working it until I can run my finger over this thing and not catch anything. So our high spot is completely gone. So we want to have basically low spots wherever we're going to put our filler in. So that way when we block sand this, it all equals out and levels itself out naturally. So what my plan now is next on this saucer top is I'm going to be going and taking my die grinder and removing any of these edges here that we see, right? Because the rest of the paneling here is actually pretty close. I'm not seeing a huge, you know, amount of this going on. And we've definitely got the edge looking a whole lot better. The bottom's not going to need near as much work. It's pretty much, you know, lined itself up pretty good. But the top here is definitely going to need a lot of work. Now, the problem with this model kit is that when you assemble the saucer, you have to put the center core in and then put the top part over the top of this, right? And a lot of people build the model that way. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure I get all the hard part of the bodywork done on these panels before I go ahead and do that, because I don't want to be handling the model a whole lot and bashing this around and flipping it over and doing a lot of rough sanding on it and stuff with that whole center core in there with all of our nice detail, our lighting, and all of our little detail parts that are going to go into that. So I'm going to be working on the top and the bottom halves of the saucer so that hopefully I can get these pretty cleaned up and looking pretty good, so that all we're going to deal with when we do put the center core in is you know, addressing this outer seam right here where the two halves go together, which will be minimal because they overlap, and there's just going to be a small little gap on the bottom of this. We'll basically be able to spin this around and put a little bit of filler in there and take care of that really easy. That's the least of our worries. So that's what the plan is as far as putting this main structure together. So let me go back now. I'll take this top away, and I'm going to show you the bottom and what we've had to do here. Now you can see right off the bat, I haven't done any of that wooden, you know, used any of the wooden reinforcement in this, and this is actually quite a bit stronger than the top. And it's mainly because you have these shapes that were cast into this where the landing gear go. Now the strange part about this kit that I didn't even notice until I started working with it was that they give you too many landing gear. This should have 3 legs that come down, and they give you 6. So basically what you're going to do here is you're going to take 3 of the outer doors. You don't need to build the whole thing because you're not going to see it. They have an inner and an outer piece, but just take the outer section, the shell, and glue those in place in the slots that you want to cover up here. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure you got 3 equal distance legs to work with when you finally build in the final pieces. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to fill these in and make them go away completely. So we only have the 3 here. Not sure at all why they decided to do that on this kit. I tried doing some research thinking that maybe the ship did have extra landing gear or something on it, but I can't see that. It just looks like there were 3 on the original prop. So I'm not sure why they decided to do that, but that's how we're going to take care of that. Now there are a couple of tiny little high spots I can feel on the bottom. So I'll shave those down just like we're going to do on the top and do the body work on those. And we'll get this all set and ready to go. I'm also going to come back in here just for the heck of it, and I'm going to grind off all these little tabs and replace those with the same wooden ones that I used on the top. The thickness of that wooden stir stick is just right, because once you butt the 2 upper and lower halves together, they'll touch each other without causing it to be too far apart, and we'll have a nice spot where we can put some epoxy on top of those to really make that extra strong on the top and the bottom where they join together, besides just being able to glue around the edge right here. So that's going to help make that whole thing stronger. So that's the plan going forward, you guys. Now, in order to do my body work on this, I'm going to go over to the Home Depot, and I'm going to pick up a nice piece of wood that's slightly bigger than the saucer here, probably a square. I'll lay it on top of this, and that way I can have a nice solid platform that's square to do my body work. So I'm going to be putting on my filler. I'm going to be using my Evercoat, and we're going to fill in all these seams and get this all sanded out nice and smooth, get this all blended together, make sure everything is going to fit really good. And then I'll do the same thing with the top. Then I'll be able to glue these two halves together without issue, and I'll just have to work on the very outer seam. Again, I don't want to be pounding this thing all over the place, you know, and handling it. It's huge, you know. It's kind of hard to tell in the video here, but this thing is like probably twice the size of a regular trash can lid. It's absolutely giant. But that's what's going to be the plan, you guys. So I don't have a whole lot more to share with you guys today on this video, but a little bit later this week I'll have the wood. I'll have this I'll probably get the top or the bottom finished as far as the bodywork goes, and I'll show you how that's coming out, and I'll go ahead and explain how I sanded it and everything. But it's going to come out really good, you guys. After we get all done here, this is going to be about 95% straight. I don't know if I'll be able, you know, based on the construction, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get it to be 100% perfect. But what I really wanted to focus on, like I said, was getting this outer ring where it doesn't have all this crazy wave action going on. And I think we'll be able to fill in, you know, most of the low spots on the top of the saucer and get that, you know, the center part of it where it doesn't look, you know, super bad like this. And it should come out looking pretty good, and I'll be really happy with it if we can get to that point. But structurally, I'm really pleased. Once I mocked all this up, I'll show you a quick picture of that right here. As you can see in this photo, I mocked it all up, and once I had it all taped together, it actually became really strong. I didn't see a lot of flexing going on in the center or around the edges or anything. So this will be on a static diorama display once it's all completed. So we don't want to add a whole bunch of weight. I got some really good suggestions from people. Shout out to Ken over there at Ken's Model Shop. He posted a video from a gentleman that built this kit about 10 or 12 years ago. He had some interesting ideas there. I got some nice information, especially about how the core part goes together and where a lot of the detail goes, because the instructions are a little lacking there. That's going to help me a lot. He used foam to reinforce the center part of his saucer. I don't think that's going to be necessary, you guys. You've got these support legs that are in here that make contact, and once this outer ring has been reinforced quite a bit, that's where most of the flexing comes from. I found that when I actually mocked this up and got it all together, it was actually quite strong. And again, we're not going to be picking this up all the time and handling it and doing all that. You're not supposed to do that with models anyway. It'll be on its display base, and it should be fine. As long as it's initially straight to begin with, it should stay that way. So that's the plan going forward, you guys. I'll get into a little bit more detail on the next video, especially when I start doing the body work here. And the fun part about this is that we're going to be doing spending a lot of time on the center core, adding a lot of detail, lighting, and things like that. So it'll get a little bit more interesting to those of you who are into the more technical parts of building these models. But this part right here is a little bit boring, but it's we've got to start out with a good foundation, you guys. We've got to make sure all this is squared away and looking pretty straight and everything before we can move on to the fun stuff. Okay, so this is going to be a lot of hard work, a lot of sanding. But we'll get there, and I hope you'll tune in and follow along. It looks like you guys are really interested in this so far, and that's great. Forbidden Planet's still a really well-received movie. It's kind of I've always thought of that movie as sort of the guiding post, if you want to call it that, for how a lot of sci-fi was done going forward. I mean, a lot of groundbreaking things were created in that movie, and it's still a classic, and it still looks absolutely beautiful. If you haven't seen the movie on Blu-ray, do yourself a favor and get the Blu-ray copy. It holds up really, really well. I was really amazed watching it. It was like watching a brand new movie all over again. Just fantastic. Okay, you guys, well, that's going to be a wrap for this one. Again, happy 4th of July to everybody that lives in the States out there. Hope you guys are safe and have fun with your family. I'll be back in the next couple of days with another update on this, and we're going to keep rocking along. I'll see you then, everybody. Take care and happy modeling.